Hello, Ungoogleable. Welcome to your life. Today is beautiful. Please log in.
Problems with that, particularly if, like you said earlier, there's some things in VR that potentially we don't even want to emulate. It would be very interesting if you don't just get AR benefits, but you also get real-world benefits.
You get your superpowers. You want your telescopic and microscopic vision that you can
Night
turn
vision.
on real. Yeah.
Also, and if you build up a good enough database of all the objects around you, you can have kind of a proto X-ray vision where you can see through walls, through to, oh, I see the path goes to the hotel through that wall. That would be interesting.
Hang on a second, everybody. Picking the next question here. Another question that came through actually a lot was, do we think that perfect VR, which is indistinguishable from reality, will be attainable in our lifetime? And obviously we've talked about some of the biggest barriers, but that was sort of the follow-up, is what are the biggest barriers?
Well, indistinguishable from real life, one point that I sometimes bring up when we're talking about how precise optical distortion has to be right is that you can be real life suffering various levels of artifacts. If you're looking out a car windshield or through a screen door, you're perceiving reality in the real world, but not necessarily at the peak fidelity and the best of conditions. And I think that it has been, it's been rewarding to watch real-time rendering get to the point over the last couple decades where now there are, even in real time, some things in limited cases where you can say, this is photorealistic, it's indistinguishable. And the offline rendering now is just getting crazy hard to distinguish between real and false there. But so I think that it always winds up being this set of conditions. Like we went through all of this in gaming, where you can take your simplest cases where you've got a room made of nothing but diffuse reflectors and rectilinear surfaces, and you start really simple, and you say, okay, we can nail this to some level, but the vibrant rainforest jungle in a rainstorm or something is going to be way, way, way harder to get there. So it's not a bright, sharp line that you cross and you're done. It's something it's a huge spectrum that you slowly creep over. And I think that, like, the ability to say something, a system, I guess it's almost like a Turing test that you take at that point of real versus synthetic, but the idea of having a head-mounted display, and if you were given the option of actually taking the lenses out and viewing a real world through it versus having the lenses in and seeing a synthetic world, or not making the lenses non-distorting so they were still seeing through glass. That type of test where I suspect that within a decade, in simple contrived cases for your Cornell box of virtual reality, that we probably will be able to do something that could be visually indistinguishable, that could fit under the response thresholds of perceptibility. That might be missing something much more important that not aware of, but for the simplest cases, it's probably possible. I'd be curious to see if you'd agree with
So I agree about the visuals. I also think it should be possible with audio. I also think it's possible with smell, and if it hadn't been for smell-o-vision, smell would be a less amusing topic. But, I mean, let's face it, we've got something that's right next to your nose, and it only takes a few thousand molecules.
But isn't it the case with olfactory and taste that there's no way to synthesize that, where there's no additive combination like RGB or waveforms?
As far as I know,
So you need a fiber, if not
Today was a wonderful day. Please come back tomorrow.
Red, blue, green.
Mic check 1, 2.
Congratulations. You reject the good enough. You reject words like symbolism and postmodernism. Obsolescence is not part of your vocabulary. Every night, every day, every step of the way. The diktat of fashion. The agenda of the color wheel. Gone. It takes more than a pretty face to catch your attention. I repeat. It takes more than a pretty face to catch your attention. Good. That is very good. We are source decoded. For you. For the most perfect moisturizer. The most advanced cosmetic lineup. Scientifically proven, scientifically tested. For you.
Congratulations. Calibration completed.